So where do you fall in on the MAGA Republican side of things?
Well, today, I think if you ask most people, they'd be like, well, Dinesh is in the MAGA wing. And I guess I am, but I came out of the other wing. In other words, if you look at my background, I mean, I'm not some guy who is a plumber who decided to run for office. I mean, I came up through the mainstream of the Republican Party. My mentor was a guy who was the deputy to Bill Buckley at the National Review. My early articles were at National Review. I then went to work for Policy Review, which is a policy magazine. I went to the Reagan White House. I worked there for 2 years. Then I joined the American Enterprise Institute, the think tank. I was there for 10 years. Then the Hoover Institution at Stanford. So this couldn't be a more mainstream path of the Republican establishment. The only difference is that after that, and I think actually my case with the Obama administration, I had an election, I exceeded the campaign finance laws. I was, in a confinement center for 8 months. All that experience helped to sort of help me see a part of America I hadn't seen before. I think that helped to shift my politics a little bit.
Is it also, one last follow-up, is it also that if you are a Republican, it's like you're a dead man walking if you're in the Liz Cheney camp, the Adam Kinzinger camp, the, what's the dude who wears the eye patch?
Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw. Like if you're in that camp, like you're a dead man walking. So it's like either get on board with the MAGA train or you're going to get run over. So is it like, I'm not even saying about you, but do people just kind of have to be opportunistic and say like, yeah, I kind of have these principles, but if I want to win elections or get money or donations or even, fulfill what my base wants to hear, I got to get on board with the MAGA camp?
Well, I think actually that's, I'd like to nuance that a little bit because there's a huge difference between, let's say, Liz Cheney on the one side, and then let's take Brian Kemp and Dan Crenshaw. So Dan Crenshaw is my congressman. And Dan Crenshaw won by 75% of the vote. He won the primary easily.
What state is he in? He's in Texas?
This is in Texas. This is in Texas.
And Brian Kemp is the governor of Georgia.
Yeah, and he's running against Stacey Abrams, but I mean, he's leading by over 10 points.
Yeah, again.
Right? So what I'm getting at, and he entered into a big skirmish with Trump.
Huge skirmish. He was the whole Raphael Warnock and the situation in the Senate was a disaster. They lost 2 Senate seats because of that skirmish.
That's right. And I think, honestly, there was a lot of blame to go around, by which I mean, I think that the charges of election fraud were made in an irresponsible way, and many people thought, well, if the whole process is rigged, why should I go vote? And so in a red state, you have voters who don't vote. Horrible. That's what helped that outcome to happen. And then there was a blame game to follow that. Who's responsible for losing those Senate seats? Is it the Brian Kemp establishment or is it Trump? And that continued after a while. So here's what I'm getting at. Liz Cheney has basically become, at least in the view of most Republicans, an operative for the Democratic Party. She mainly attacks Republicans. She endorses Democrats. So she's in a whole different... She's basically become the face of the January 6th Commission. And again, look, I mean, there are guys in January 6th who should have not done what they did. They should not have broken those glass. They should not have engaged in any skirmishes with the cops. But then there's a whole bunch of other people who walk in there. Nobody stops them. The cops standing around. They walk in. They're there for 10 minutes. And now they're in solitary confinement. I mean, there's no excuse for that. That if they were on the left, that would never have happened to them. That's the key point. And that's really all we're saying about January 6th is that there needs to be some equity of treatment.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.